ladies and gentlemen, this has Ben back with you in the Midwest Model Shop for a really cool super duper update. Today we're going to be taking a look at the second test shot of Trumpeter's 1/200 scale Fletcher, Sullivans, and Stevens. These are the three kits that Trumpeter is going to do as a release here sometime in the future. So I know a lot of people are probably going to ignore this part, but it's important. So what is a test shot? A test shot is literally a test when they shoot the styrene into the molds and they check out what they have. So I did a video on this earlier. What happened this time was I got an email from my contact out in China out of the blue saying, hey, I'm going to send you the next test shots. And I was like, hey, that sounds good to me. And then I started randomly getting tracking update information, and what showed up to my house was this. A box. And that's it. So literally inside of this box, what they had done was taken the styrene, wrapped them up in some foam, and then taken shipping tape and they wrapped around it, they marked the product number, and they shoved it into that box. That's what I got. So I do not have box art. I do not have an actual box. I do not have instructions. I do not have decals. What I have are parts. We're going to take a look at them today. They did send me complete hulls this time for all three ships, all three versions. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to go ahead and take a look at them, and I went ahead and assembled one, the USS Fletcher. It was hard to do because there's several hundred parts and I don't have any instructions. So I had to pull out all my resources and reference material, dig through and try and match parts with what they had created. I was able to utilize over 90%, I think, of all the parts on the sprues. They're almost completely gone for the Fletcher. They have some spares, which I was happy about. And when it came to the photo etch, I put on the obvious stuff. I skipped a couple things, and then a lot of it I just no idea, because it's little parts that go together with other little parts to make your final product. And I just don't know what those are, and it would take forever to figure that stuff out without instructions. But I was able to put together what I feel is a fair representation of the model so that you could see what you're going to get. I do not know how much the kits will cost. I do not know when they're going to release them. I was originally told that Trumpeter was aiming for summer of 2024. Today is November 26th, 2024. I was then told that if they didn't make that deadline, that they were going to shoot for fall of 2024. Again, it is November 26th, 2024, and I have a test shot. So unfortunately, I don't know when they're going to release it, but they're going to release it. We obviously, molds are made, and I have the kits here. So what we're going to do is do kind of a, well, I would say out of the box review, except that I only have the sprues. So we're going to take a look at the sprues for the Stevens, then the Sullivans, and then we're going to take a look at the Fletcher. I'm starting out with the Stevens because just like the real ship where we made the Fletcher and then the hull and everything was the same and they just made modifications as they needed to, that is what Trumpeter's done. They made the Stevens first. The hulls all say Stevens on them. There are common sprues that are in all of the kits that say Stevens on them because those are repeatable parts that you'll use throughout. The differences come with the Fletcher and the Sullivans. So we'll do all that, and then at the end, so the last ship we're going to look at the Fletcher is the Fletcher because it's assembled. We'll start with the parts, we'll look at the Fletcher. At the end, I'm also going to talk about what I thought of putting the kit together, what the fit is like, and some other thoughts from some friends that I've had who've seen the model and what they thought of what Trumpeter has produced also. I do want to say right off the bat, I am impressed with something specifically, and I will show you this, but their superstructures are molded on 5 sides. The top, the front and back, and the 2 sides have incredibly sharp, very precise, very nice detail on it. I do not know how they accomplished this. It is very impressive. Normally, if you buy an aftermarket kit, you know, like I'm building the Enterprise right now, this molding is far superior to the Enterprise. Some of the sprues are just your regular run-of-the-mill stuff, and they're not as high of quality, but it doesn't really matter. The stuff that matters is really sharp. If I was, like on the Enterprise, I'm scraping off a lot of the doors because I have Pontos photo etch doors that I'm replacing them with. I would not cut these doors off. There are 3 or 4 different types of doors. They've modeled them. The detail is crisp. It's correct as far as I can tell, and it looks good. I wouldn't scrape one off unless I wanted to model the door open. So they've made some big improvements with a few things here, or they've done a few tricks with this kit. The kit's not without its shortcomings. You know, the hull plating is exaggerated. I don't have a bilge keel included. I meant to double check that. I don't know if actually this kit needs a bilge keel or not, but mine doesn't have one. Maybe you don't need one. Maybe that's not necessary. You guys are going to comment down below. You're going to have all your questions, and some of you are real authorities on the subject, and you'll comment appropriately. But yeah, I don't have a box. I don't have box art. I don't have instructions. I don't have decals. I did the best that I possibly could. Let's go ahead and take a look at the parts and the finished ship. Thank you to everyone who subscribed on Patreon. We appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who's made a purchase at the MidwestModelShop.com. We really appreciate that, and we will figure out parts for this thing as well. And thank you for everyone who's liked and subscribed. We really do appreciate it. I hope that you're all having a happy Thanksgiving. And if you're not celebrating Thanksgiving, I hope you're having a nice big meal somewhere and that you enjoy this video. Thank you for everyone who likes and subscribes. We really do appreciate your support. All right, with all of that said, let's go ahead and get into it. All right, I figured we would go completely out of the normal order and start off with kind of the extra things. So the kit does come with 2 sheets of photo etch, at least my examples did. So the first thing I want to address is this is basically your stock railing. You're going to end up using it for whatever you want. I will point out, though, that this is labeled Sullivans, and on all the other kits, they say Fletcher and Sullivans on them, even though this is the same thing, right? So your photo etch right here, what's going to be unique about it, obviously for the Sullivans, but you're going to have your catapult situation and the crane used to recover the aircraft. Then some railings and some of the superstructure parts, supports, then a little bit of your radars. Then we have our cast all in clear. I think this is our Kingfisher. This is, it says right here, 1/200 scale S2U. This includes some bombs, your floats, your propeller. Nice detail, typical stuff of Trumpeter. Looks good. I'm sure it'll build up to be just as nice airplane as anything I put on the Missouri and the Arizona. Good stuff. Pressing on. Next up, we have some of our basic superstructure parts. So the guns, they're the same on all of the kits. Let's see if it says, yep, right here. 1/200 Sullivans. You can see the part number 03722, or sorry, that's the kit number there on the left. That will be common throughout. These are nicely molded. Some of these are smooth on the top, and some of them have these little graded lines. On the Fletcher, and I think also the Sullivans, for sure the Fletcher where you have 5, they've taken one of these and they snip it off and just throw a 5th one in the kit with you. Here you have the bridge. This is a round bridge. Remember, the Sullivans has a square bridge, for those of you coming unglued already about not having a square bridge. And then you have your superstructure unique to Sullivans. Here's the thing I want to point out about this thing, though. Look at this. There's very fine, very nice detail on the end. And there's very nice, very well detailed doors on the side. And there's detail on this side. There's detail on the top. There's detail on the end again. They've figured out how to mold all of this stuff very sharply, very finely, very nicely into all sides of the superstructure. I am impressed with this. And I'm pleased they have the different door types, and they've done a very good job of molding it. So the only thing I would add to this one, and I think they have the photo etch, put the little round hatch or the handle in there. See, they've molded it on there. You could put it actually protruded out. But other than that, if someone was to release Pontos an aftermarket kit where they included these doors, I would not scrape these off at all unless you want to open one. And then check this out. How did they get that detail up underneath there? How did they do that? That looks fantastic. Maybe it's straight on. Looks like it could be. There's no lip. I'm impressed with the superstructure details. The bridge, where we got here? This, it's round. And look how nicely done. They have the bridge windows. Almost perfectly round. I gotta flip this over to get out of the way of the camera. But it's molded all the way around. If this slide mold technology, whatever they're doing now, I'm impressed. This is something that I think has leveled up significantly. This is way better than the Enterprise, way better than the Arizona, way better than anything I saw in the Missouri. These are very, very sharp pieces. So, yeah. All right, let's press on to some of the other stuff. All right, we have 2 sprues here where everything is the same. And I'm showing you this now. This is the common set of sprues between all 3 kits. All 3 kits will have both of these sprues inside of them. They have the lifeboats, the torpedo tubes, depth charges, torpedoes, guns, your boats, your outriggers, your funnel parts, anything that is common between the 3, it'll be on here. And these say Sullivans on them, 03722, that number on the left, and that will be on every single one of these sprues in all 3 kits. So this is your common part sprue between them. Everything after this kind of turns into a one-off-ish, with the exception of the next part. All right, so here's the piece that has the Sullivans nameplate on it, right? And then again, the part number up here, 072, what do we got? 0722. And you have your racks for the depth charges, some miscellaneous parts, funnels, things on the bottom, etc. Interestingly enough, on the Fletchers and the Sullivans, you also get this sprue. It's identical, except for over here. It won't say Sullivans, obviously. You ordered the Sullivans or the Fletcher. So this piece is different, but this part number is the same, and everything else that you see on here is the same. The quality of the stuff is pretty good. The funnel halves go together very nicely, very minimum amount of cleanup. They look nice. It's your typical stuff from Trumpeter. I think it's pretty good. All right, and our next 2 pieces of sprues, these are specific to Sullivans. You will not see these in, you will see similar parts, but you won't see these in the other kits. Your gunnels here are a different shape. These blast areas for the, well, maybe they're called gunnels, for your anti-aircraft guns on the port and starboard side are the same. But then a bunch of these other pieces up in here and the gun tubs and all of, they're different. The number of cranes that you get for your depth charges are different. The depth charges are set up differently. You've got some unique pieces down here. So yeah, this is where things start to change up just a little bit. But again, all your detail, if we get in close here, it's nice. It all ends up looking really, really sharp. I think, like I said, I'm super impressed with their superstructures. Those pieces are very impressive. When we move on here, you've got your gun director out here by itself, and then this is your different bridge pieces. This ended up molded nicely. You can see there's a little bit of a not a sink mark, but you know what I'm talking about right there. On the Fletcher example I got, that ended up being a little recessed and messed up. This funnel's 2-part because you end up utilizing this piece right here. And then you've got your twin 40, your lights, a couple other pieces on here. And then your superstructure part here for the... actually, this is not the superstructure. This is the Citadel. Sorry, this is your Citadel. That on top of that goes your gun director. That's it. So let's take a look at the deck and the hull now. Alright, we're all the way out at the edge of my table. So this is the same hull I saw last time. This is a little scratch in mine that came here. I'm not seeing, so this side's clear, I'm not seeing the keels. I think they're called bilge keels. I got to double check my drawings. Maybe I'm totally wrong about that. But this is the same profile we saw last time. Inside here, I got upside down? Yeah. You're going to see the Sullivans hull and part number. This is the same part number. This is the hull you will get with all 3 versions of the ship. They're going to reuse this. What changes is your deck. Obviously, the Sullivans has a different anti-aircraft gun arrangement in the back here for another 20 mil or 40 mil, and then maybe the director, and then the depth charges go on either side. You got your 5-inch gun, and then you have all the airplane stuff happening here. The detail on the deck is nice. They've molded the walkways on here. I was asked if they were a little narrow, and I'm not sure. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. I haven't checked yet. Otherwise, we have the same profile up in the front. And then the only fit issue that I've seen with all the kits happens right here. If you throw it into the hull, you start out in the back, I mean, it's perfect. You can't complain. And then you come up to the front on the bow and you've got this gap. This is not a big deal. You can fill this with some putty very easily and you're done. And that's what I would do. I would slide this all the way back, have the perfect fit until you get all the way up here. In typical Trumpeter fashion, the hawse pipe hole transitioning up here to your the hawse pipe, I forget what the rails there, whatever, where the anchor goes down, it's off. It's close. It's much better than it's been on most Trumpeter ships, but you have to do a little clearing out of the plastic up here to get this right. Again, the hull plating, pretty exaggerated. You know, it'll look great out of the box put together, but if you were to just knock this down with some sandpaper, you'd probably be really happy with it. It'd be more than sufficient. So that is it. Let's go ahead, and that is our Sullivans. Let's go ahead and move on now to the parts in the Sullivans. Very quick build there. All right, looks like nothing changed, but because we left off with the other hull. So here, same thing. This hull is the Sullivans hull, says so right in here. And then the deck on the bottom and side informs you that this is in fact the Sullivans. So we've got this interesting grid pattern on the back here, all for the molding of your anti-aircraft gun tubs, and there you go. Same fit as before, except my hull got a little smashed in the box, so it fits very nicely in the back here, and then I've got these wide gaps here. That's because it was squished. If you just pull these together, which a little rubber band will fix, it fits very nicely. Whoop. Until, just as I mentioned before, you get up to the bow where you end up a little bit short, and so you have to fill it in with putty. They're very consistent, so the deck shape and the hull mold are spot on. So let's go ahead and look at some of the other details. Okay, we have our 5 guns, and just like I mentioned before, they cut off an extra one and threw it in here, and if you look closely at it, it says it's the Sullivans because they're using the same parts over and over again, just like the Navy did with the real Fletchers. It all worked, so they just use the same parts, and they're very nicely molded. The superstructure, so this back one, this is going to be, I can't remember if they got two quad 40s or 2 twin 40s, but they got the mounts here, and same as before, amazing detail, super sharp and crisp detail on all sides, top and bottom, all the way around. The only thing you would want to add is the photo etch ladders, obviously, and maybe the wheel to the hatch and on the door in the back. These are super duper impressive. I don't know how they do this, but I am very happy with the detail and how this is all turned out. The fact that they're running the conduit to the lights, to switches, yeah, it's pretty cool. This is a square bridged Fletcher. So you have a square bridge, and then this is the superstructure that it sits on top of right here. Get a look at the other side. Very sharp. For a test shot, I mean, these are... Go ahead and put it in the box, Trumpeter. These are good to go. Just very, very, very nicely done. Look at that. Look how sharp that is. That's really good. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the sprues that come with this thing. All right, so here's that sprue that I said comes in all of them, and it's part number 03722 for the Stevens, yet this says Sullivans on it right here. Everything else on here is the same. I was incorrect. Those first two big sprues that I showed you are not included in this kit. So either I didn't get them, or they're actually somehow not part of it. I'm not totally sure about that. They may have forgot to include them for me. But I do know that they are in the Fletcher kit. So they're common to the Fletcher and the Stevens. Alright, here's your next sprue. You got your gunnels. This is bridge stuff here, superstructure stuff. Look at that detail on that edge there. That's really sharp. It looks good. And you have your different shaped gunnels and some more over here. These are different. If we come up to the part number here, we can see it's 03724. This is for the Sullivans. So it is in fact different. You do get two sprue Gs, and there may lie the difference. I'm seeing two quad 40s here. This is your part number 03724. So this is your typical quality stuff. Now what's different is, and I'm not sure what's going on here, you have your 240s where they have the covers off, and then you've got slightly longer ones where they've got the covers and the chutes on the back. I don't know if that's optional for the time frame. You've got your different types of depth chargers. This is for the funnel. These are for your, this is a twin mounted. That's probably what's going on. This is a single twin, so maybe that's these, and then these are your quad 40s. I bet you that is what is happening. And then you've got your depth charges in the back. A couple ammo boxes. So you get two sprues of these. And that's it. So I feel like I'm missing two sprues, but without instructions, I won't actually know. All right, let's take a quick look at the hull. All right, by hull I meant the photo etch. So here we have a completely different dedicated sheet. I suspect this has to do with all of our guns, and you've got some railing and your radar and such. Here's the default railing that I mentioned before. But when you come in, you look closely here, you see that it is for the Sullivans, even though it does, in fact, as far as I can tell, match the other stuff. So there's those parts. All right, let's take a quick look at the hull. Actually, we did the hull, right? I'm losing it here. So let's take a look at the Fletcher.
All right, so this is what everyone wanted to see anyway, I'm assuming, which is the assembled kit. I'm just going to go ahead and talk over it while we pan past and take a look at things. I'm going to share my points here. So let's start off with fit. Generally speaking, it's fantastic. The biggest gripe that I have is with the bow, where the deck fits to the hull. I showed that to you earlier. It's no big deal to fix that with a little bit of putty. The next biggest issue is basically anywhere you have a peg type of part that needs to fit into a square or round hole, the hole is too small or the peg's too big, one way or another. So you have to do a little bit of reaming out. Once you've accomplished that, as you can see, like for example, with the superstructures fit to the deck, it's super tight, fits nicely, and everything's fine. So you got a little bit of clean out work to do. Otherwise, everything goes together nicely. On this kit, the lifeboats, when we get by them here in a second, you'll see that I mounted them kind of at an angle, sitting on parts of the hull. They should be parallel to the deck, hanging in the davits. And there are little circle spots that look kind of funny on the lifeboats. In real life, there were these little fixtures, little pads that fit on the lifeboat where those circles are at, and then they like came off of the davits. I'm not sure if I have those pieces, if there are photo etch parts, what. Without the instructions, it was too difficult to identify anything that was meant to do that. Hopefully when we get the whole full kit, we'll have that all sorted out. The next issue that I had is with the life rafts. I've only mounted 2 of them, and I put them up forward under the bridge. Where they're mounted is not correct. They should be just to the left of that one you see right now in that open space. There's supposed to be a rack there that holds them. Now we have some photo etch parts that might be that rack, but I couldn't tell for sure. So I just opted to put the 2 on that you see, just to put them somewhere and make sure that they're represented. So take a look at that torpedo tube. The one on the right's fine. The one in the middle right there, we're missing a bunch of detail on top of it. There should be a gunner's seated position and some equipment there for aiming it. Now I have some parts left over that may be what that was supposed to be, and some photo etch pieces. But again, without the instructions, it was just way too difficult to tell what may or may not have gone there. So I just opted to leave those things off instead of blatantly guessing. We're missing anchor chains. I'm assuming that Trumpeter will go ahead and provide their little default chain that comes in all their other kits. That's totally normal. The mast right there, I just put the basic parts on. There's a whole bunch of extra pieces. There's a whole bunch of rigging that can be done. I just am not sure what was what, so I decided to just stick with what represents the shape, generally speaking, so we can get an idea of what the whole thing is supposed to look like. All of this detail, all these little things here, super inviting. Lots of little angles, lots of little nooks and crannies, all in a nice, easy, viewable space. It's going to be a really great model when we have the whole thing here ready to go. And I think that's kind of the biggest thing here. Before I go on, I want to talk about the blast bags on the 5-inch guns. So those are fixed. They don't move. I think they look fantastic. They do, however, give you the option to not use blast bags, and you can put these barrels in that will pivot up and down. They are movable. The turrets won't turn, but you can change the angle on the gun, which is really cool. But I thought those blast bags looked so sharp, and they fit so well, I couldn't help pass them up. I had to put them in, so that's why you see them there. The last thing I want to talk about pretty much is just the general feel of this kit. It's super detailed, it's super concise, and small. So like I said, I had 15 hours in this thing, and that was with 0 instructions and just hunting through the parts and looking at photographs trying to figure out what went where. If you had the instructions to get it to this point, well, for me, would just take a few hours. It'd slow down with the photo etch, obviously, on the railing. This is going to be an easy kit to build. It's perfect for those of you who want to stick your toes in the 1/200 scale warship pool, but you don't have the room for a giant 5-foot long warship. You're not interested in a 6-month build if it goes fast, but realistically a year to a year and a half. You don't want to build, 40 Oerlikon cannons, 20 quad 40 Bofors, you just get a handful of each of those here. And all of the parts are nice and big, even the tiny ones, and it's just easy to assemble. That comment resonated not just from me, but from members of my model club. I brought this kit and showed them. And when the meeting was over, I had several people come up to me and say, this ship's the perfect size. This is the perfect size model. It's not too big. It's definitely not too small. All the pieces and parts are large enough that they're easy to handle and put together. And this is coming from folks who don't build ships, but they do like models. And everyone said this is one that's probably going to go in my collection when it comes out, just because it looks like it was fun and easy to build. And it was, and it is, and that's coming from the position of not having instructions. It was very easy to figure out, mostly, how the general parts of the ship went together. It was all the little stuff that I got caught up in that hopefully the instructions will sort out. I do have a list in my mind of things that I would like to improve upon, so we'll go ahead and work on those and hopefully have it ready for release whenever that happens. Looking at this picture, all the way in the aft right there, I think there should be one more kind of like antenna or flag staff. From my pictures, I've seen those, and I could not find anything in the parts that matched up with that made any sense. So I don't know if those were omitted or if it's part of the photo etch. We'll have to figure that out. The railing, it's generic railing. And the stuff that you see everywhere else, I had to make up where it went. I found parts that mostly fit correctly, which is typical of Trumpeter's sized railing. An aftermarket kit down the road might really resolve all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, look at it. It's cool. This is out of the box. The box that's the generic box. It looks the part. The details there. It's sharp. I've always said Trumpeter makes great products out of the box, and I think that this is one of them, and that if you just built this out of the box, you'd end up with a really great kit, especially once it's painted. So anyway, that's all I have to say about it. Thanks for watching. I hope you're all having a great holiday. Feel free to like and subscribe. Definitely leave your comments down below, and hopefully Trumpeter will see them. All right, folks. Thanks. We'll see you next time.